Welcome back to Broken Electronics. My name is Lee, and I don't really have a project today. It's more of a pre-project concerning my Wallstreet PDQ. This is, a 20th century PowerBook, and I am considering doing some upgrades. They're relatively easy to upgrade, but it's got some limitations. The ports. There just aren't any modern ports. But it does have two PC card bus slots. So I got this guy. The Duo Connect. How does it connect? FireWire 400, mini FireWire 400, two USB 2 ports. Now, there's only one problem. Right now, this machine, which you may remember was originally a school computer, I'm pretty sure it was a teacher's computer in a high school in Ohio. That's my surmise from the documentation that came with it and some of the pencil notation, inked notations on it. It still has its original operating system, Mac OS 8.1. Now, I am pretty darn sure that Mac OS 8.1 is not going to have a clue how to deal with either USB 2 or FireWire. So it's going to need to be upgraded, and I think I'm going to take it on a bit of an upgrade journey. I'm going to put Mac OS 8.6 on it. See what that does. I may leave it at that if that card can actually function. If not, we'll put 9.2.2 on. And if that doesn't do it, we'll put Panther on. If we can get this card recognized and functioning, this is going to be really worth upgrading. Well, there's only one way to find out, so please stay tuned. Before we get into the main event here, there's one kind of interesting piece of software on this machine. This does need to be wiped clean, of course. Here's the applications folder. WebWhacker 3.0. Alright, what WebWhacker is a piece of software to collect and download websites for offline viewing. Remember the days of dial-up internet when it would make sense to store things so you could look at them offline, then go back online if you wanted to do anything else. Just thought that was an interesting look into yesteryear. Alright. We've already taken a look at this in another video. So, check the CD drive. And Mac OS 8.6. Any day now. I hear it making sounds. I thought I seen it was frozen. Ah, you know, I now remember. Yeah, unreadable by the computer. OS 8.1 has Mac OS Standard. It doesn't know how to deal with a file system. So what we're going to do is shut down, reinsert the CD, hold down the C key, okay, here we go. Didn't hear a chime, but that's okay. And we should be booting off the CD. I'll feel better when we get a happy Mac. Ah, here we go. Okay, this is going to take a while, so we'll rejoin later on. Stay tuned. Well, that took forever. Just to keep you up to date. It booted back into 8.1. So I ejected the disk, cleaned it off, tried it again, and it did finally boot up onto the installer, which is where we are now. And I will tell you, back in the 20th century, CD drives were slow. All right. First thing we're going to do. Man. Let's go to drive setup. Now it wants to format as macOS Standard. I'm going to go for macOS Extended. Better ongoing in the future. Okay. And we initialize. Yeah, I know that. This is a G3. All right. This does have a nice keyboard, I'll give it that. All right. So much for utilities. Now we're going to install. Alright, now I will not make you sit through all of this because there's probably at least one other OS installation yet to come, so stay tuned. Well, here we are. I'll tell you, this is probably the slowest CD drive I've ever dealt with, even slower than the PowerBook 1400 CS. Then again, this is the original. The one for the 1400 CS I bought on eBay. It probably was an upgrade. Okay, so I'm going to restart, plug in the card bus card, and we'll see what happens. Stay tuned. Well, I'll tell you, that CD drive may be slow, and it certainly is, but it's also tenacious. Even though I set the hard drive as the boot option in the startup control panel, it still booted to the CD. I managed to shut it down, start it up, and eject the drive. Thank heaven for tray loading drives. I hate slot loaders. Anyway, I managed to get it ejected, and it is in fact booted up onto the hard drive. And I'm going to go through the setup assistant just to see that this isn't going to work. 8.6 ought to. I mean, we're talking later 1998 here, and FireWire was a thing by then. But we shall see. Stay tuned. Alright, macOS 8.6 is up and running. And I guess the next thing to do is to try plugging in the Duo Connect to one of the card bus slots. Son of a gun. You look at that. It mounted. Now, there's nothing plugged into the card. Let's see. I have this more or less period correct portable hard drive. I don't think there's anything on it, unless there's something that I have forgotten. PC card adds functionality to your computer. It cannot be opened. Okay, so it recognizes that there's a card. It's not recognizing that there's a hard drive attached to the card. All right. Oh, we'll unplug that. This is more of a long shot. I've got an SSD in a FireWire 800 enclosure. And an adapter cable. So let's plug that in. Now that's not working either. It's not working because it's not getting power. So there's an on-off switch on the back of this drive. Flick it off, flick it back on, and nothing happens. All right. Well, we've made a little bit of progress anyway. flash drive. Okay, now that's getting some power, because the light in the flash drive went on. Okay, so we've made progress. We've gone from the machine not even recognizing that there was anything there to recognizing the existence of a PC card and evidently not knowing what to do with it. Let's see what 9.2.2 can do. Okay, drive is spinning up. And there's all this. All right then. And here's a startup disk. We'll select the eMac install CD. Awfully nice having known you, macOS 8.6, and restart. So we will see you at some point when this whole thing is ready to boot up. Stay tuned. Well, it seems like for whatever reason, 9.2.2 CD booted up quite a bit faster than the 8.6 did. Alright. Now, yeah, this disc that I've got is the eMac recovery CD. It has always worked, at least on a machine that can actually boot OS 9. The only exceptions I can think of would be the PowerBook G4 MDDs, which really need the OS 9 General. Alright, let's just hit install. We don't need to run drive setup. And I'm going to install right over the top of this. Hopefully I won't have to go through the setup screen again. Okay, so I'll do this. You stay tuned. It'll only be a second for you. Well, it's finished. That took a while. It was about 20 minutes. I mean, not much compared to a modern macOS install. Okay. I wonder if the startup control panel is going to work now. Come on, let me select it. Please let me select it. Now the CD is humming away. Well, I will get this booted up to the hard drive, I promise you. Stay tuned. As I noted in the last installation, this CD drive is very tenacious. About all I can do is power off the computer by unplugging it, plug it back in, start it up, and as soon as I get video, start pushing the button on the CD drive tray to get the darn thing out. And it has worked. And of course, here we are booted into the hard drive. We need to see if this PC card will do anything here. Now, OS 9. How's the one going? Okay. OS 9 definitely understands FireWire. USB 2, not so much, but FireWire, yes. Will it understand it on this card? There we go. Okay, the card is plugged in. And it says USB. Okay. Whoops, sorry. Plugging in the USB hard drive. It doesn't seem to be spinning up. I'm getting that same message. All right. Well, okay, there's an activity light that is blinking merrily away on the back of the drive. So I'm going to give it a couple of minutes. I mean, this computer's got 32 megabytes of RAM on it. It may take a while, so stay tuned. Well, that drive still has the activity light blinking really, really quickly, but I made the mistake of opening System Profiler just to see if it listed anything, and it's locked up the system. All right, so I'm going to have to force it off and start it up again. Stay tuned. Well, okay. If nothing else from this kind of frustrating little exercise, I have learned a Wallstreet trick. It has been locking up. In part, that may be due to the only having 32 megabytes of RAM. That's the minimum these machines ship with. Holding down the power button, which is our usual way of shutting down a system that's just completely locked up and unresponsive, does nothing. It just sits there. Now, once I actually resorted to pulling the power plug. There's no battery in it. I've got the optical drive and the floppy drive both in. I really don't want to do that. I mean, I don't really want to force it off at all, but desperate times call for desperate measures. What I discovered, though, if you hold down Control, Shift, and the function key, and then press the power button, it forces the system down. Evidently, that's also the key combination you do to reset the PRAM on this machine. Who knew? I certainly didn't. All right. So it seemed like it was trying to do something with that Western Digital passport, the activity light came on and just blinked and blinked and blinked and blinked, but nothing happened. When I tried to do something with the computer, it froze up. It occurred to me maybe I could try plugging in a USB device that would be less demanding on the system. So I'm trying an Apple Pro mouse. I'm moving it around. We're getting nothing. I'm not even getting a light on it. I don't think there's really enough power coming to it. And that seems to be a lot of the problem. I'm not even going to try plugging in that FireWire drive. I would need to power it. I can, but I'd have to move this entire setup to get near enough to a... Wait a sec. Yeah, I can actually try that. We shall see. Well, give me a second. Well, before I do that, we'll try plugging in the flash drive. It's not going to work. The light at least goes on, so there is some power coming from the card. And the machine at least knows the card is there. Okay, there's the cursor. I'm getting afraid of it locking up again. But obviously nothing is mounting. Okay. Well, you stay tuned. I'll give a try, see if I can find where that power adapter for the FireWire drive is. Stay tuned. Alright. I've got the FireWire drive plugged in to external power. I've got a really long converter cable, and I have plugged it in. It's not going to work. Unfortunately, the light on this drive doesn't show any activity. It just shows that it's got power. Okay. Well, it's tantalizing. Now, I had this idea of maybe trying to bring it up to Panther and see if Panther could actually deal with the card. I may just have to go on a search for drivers. Probably with the right drivers, this machine on OS 9 could do it. The card came with a CD with drivers, but it's all Windows. Yet, macOS does recognize that it's there. Even identifies it as USB. You just can't do anything with it. Okay, now the problem installing Panther. This machine meets the minimum specs for Panther in terms of processor. It's got a 233 megahertz G3. Panther will run on that slower G3. However, the minimum requirement is what, 192 or 196, whatever, megabytes of RAM. We've only got 32. People have gotten it to run on less than that, but it's not gonna, even if I could get it installed, it would be virtually impossible. So we'll do those two things. I am going to see what I can find for drivers for this thing, and failing that, and I will fail at that, most likely. Well, no, maybe not. But I'm also gonna, yeah, let's do some upgrades to this. The machine deserves it. It's got a lot of merit to it. It can unofficially go as high as 512 megabytes. So we'll take it to that. Put an SSD in there. It's got the 8 gigabyte drive limitation. And of course, you've got your different definitions of exactly what a gigabyte is. So probably make the initial boot partition 7 gigabytes, and it should be fine. Now, think about it. It's only got 2 right now. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and do that. So you haven't seen the last of this Wallstreet. It's a fun little machine in a lot of ways. Just right now, it's too limited. So, there's something. Well, anyhow, sorry that we didn't have a victory in terms of this card, but we made some progress. So at any event, be good to other people, be good to yourselves, take very good and careful care. We'll be back with you real soon. This has been Broken Electronics.